All right, everybody. We are here, Jack Roche and I, back on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. And we are lucky enough to be joined now by my friend, Knicks superfan, pigeon catcher extraordinaire, and every Knicks fan knows him. Anthony Donahue, Anthony MSG, here to talk to us now about not just the game 3 last night, but game 1 and game 2 here at the Garden as well. Ant, how are you, man?
What's up, Chris? Thanks so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm doing okay. A little stressed after last night's game, but of course, going into last night's game in Atlanta as a fan, my goal, and it's still my goal, is to get one down there. So there's no need to panic just yet. Are there causes for concern? Oh, damn right there is. But there's no need to panic yet. You go in tomorrow afternoon, you get a dub, and then all of a sudden the Knicks are back in control of the series, because then 2 of the next 3 home games would be at Madison Square Garden. But easier said than done.
Absolutely. And you and I were there, part of the post-game pandemonium, as our guy CP calls it. It was a scene in New York City. You know, you just said coming back to New York is going to be important, but I have to ask directly, like, as someone who's been to Knicks games for decades, this crowd, the volume, inside, outside, how does it compare?
Well, I've been to a lot of big Knicks games, playoffs, regular season, the last 20, almost 30 years. I've never heard a crowd so loud, and I was at the playoffs versus Miami, Indiana, first round versus Toronto back in 2000. That was amazing. I've never heard such a louder crowd, because obviously it's a lot of young kids. It's a lot of younger people at the games. A lot of the Wall Street crew are probably staying home right now. Maybe they're waiting until the finals or next year. So it's definitely the loudest crowd I've ever experienced at the Garden, but also the most different crowd.
I was hoping that just off of that energy that the Knicks players were able to thrive off of, how important is that going to be for a guy like Julius Randle, who's kind of struggled over these past 2 games?
I think kind of is an understatement. He's struggled since the series started. Definitely a little worried. I mean, my concern is with Julius Randle. He had a spectacular season. There's no getting around that. I'm not giving up on him by no means. But it's definitely concerning. I wasn't surprised he played bad in game 1. I mean, he really wasn't good in game 2. He was better in the second half, of course, helped lead the Knicks to a win. But he was horrible last night in Atlanta. He was absolutely horrible. Can't buy a bucket. And I know some people are blaming, it's not Tibbs' fault. Like, Julius Randle is supposed to be a star player. Julius Randle is supposed to be an all-NBA player. Julius Randle gets MVP chance every game. You can't do this. Like, you can't, he is letting us down. Now, I'm not giving up on him, but right now, I mean, RJ Barrett hasn't been great either. We haven't gotten much from Reggie Bullock. If you look at when the Knicks are successful, Reggie always gives you a couple threes early in the game. Even late in the game, he hit that big 3 on that Sunday afternoon versus New Orleans to extend the winning streak to 6 games. But
Yes.
Yeah, Julius Randle's been terrible. And I have a theory about it that I don't want to make public yet, but
I'm
excited.
excited.
Might be right about it.
Well, now I'm just curious, so we'll have
About
to
my
talk.
theory?
But now I'm just not. You've piqued my interest, but
Did I tell you my theory privately?
no, we'll talk in regards to.
You want me to break? I hope I'm wrong about that. You want me to tell you my theory?
Go ahead, Ant.
I want to be wrong about it. I hope I am right. I'm not one, like, there's some fans that would rather be like, let's say you're a fan, you love the Knicks, and you say that Knicks are going to lose tonight. You almost want to lose so you can say you're right. I don't want to be right about this. I want to be dead wrong. There's an album called by Tribe Called Quest called The Low End Theory. Well, there's an album that may be coming out soon by Julius Randle called The Empty Gym Theory.
Uh-oh.
Where I just think, and I want to be dead wrong, because I don't want to be right about this.
The shooting spike?
The shooting, it's just different playing basketball in an empty gym. I'm sorry, it is. It is, like, even like, not comparing myself to an NBA player, but it's different when you're playing pickup and then you're playing in a tournament in front of 200 people, right? So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, and I don't want to be right. Let me make that extremely clear. But 3 games in a row like this, And I don't know, I feel like he didn't play great in Phoenix, right? Remember, I was at that game, but I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Right.
That was 10,000 people. I don't know, man. It's a little weird. And also, again, I think Julius can handle it. I think a lot of praise has come his way, and maybe it's been too much. Like Fat Joe having him on his Instagram live, calling him the king of New York. Come on, Fat Joe. That's too much. That's too much right now. You can't be calling a man the king of New York when he hasn't even won a playoff game yet. And that's not Julius's fault. That's not his fault.
No, it's not.
It's too much. It's too much.
But I got you. And that leads into my next question. The Knicks, and you and I know well, we're not supposed to be here.
No, not at all.
But when you get to the playoffs, you're in the playoffs.
Wait, time out. What did you think of that theory, by the way?
You know what? I think you're on to something, because we're seeing a lot of the bubble guys from last year look a little deflated, to pick a word carefully,
and
this year.
Thing, not to cut you off, but just, one thing I don't want to see also, and I saw a few tweets about this, how Tibbs wore him down. Stop.
Oh.
Stop. I know that's the narrative of Tom Thibodeau ever since Derrick Rose got hurt in 2012. Stop. That he's 27 years old. He just had a week off. It's got nothing to do with Tibbs. Now, if you want to crucify Tibbs for maybe some decision making, sure. I'm not gonna. You can. It has nothing, and I repeat, nothing to do with Tibbs working him too hard. Zero. I hope he comes out and has 40 tomorrow. I'm rooting for him. But I
feel you.
Scared I could
bubble guys. We got bubble teams. I mean, the Miami Heat are about to be swept in the first round.
They're down 0-3, huh? That's crazy.
Milwaukee's for real this year.
They've been for real for 3 or 4 years. They just haven't gotten.
But Drew is one heck of a difference maker.
When you add Drew Holiday to Chris Middleton and Giannis, of course, they're going to be way better.
So that kind of leads me into one last thing I wanted to get your take on before I throw it to Jack for any last questions. I mean, Giannis was a number one and struggled in the playoffs, right? Randle, Knicks, like I was saying, weren't really supposed to be here. But when you're in the playoffs, you got to look at your team like a playoff team. You got to say, all right, you got to have a number one, you got to have a number. And the people that are fitting into those roles for the Knicks right now are not necessarily doing the greatest of jobs at those given roles.
No.
I'm not freaking out, because I think those people weren't ready to fill those roles in the first place. I just want to know how you're feeling. Like, is Randle in a Giannis situation where if he gets another guy, he's going to be a problem? Or
I mean, Randle's a really good player. Randle's been a really good player since he's been in the league. He missed his first year with LA. He played really good next to Anthony Davis in New Orleans. He was obviously terrible in the 2019-2020 season. I think one thing we've learned about Julius Randle, even the last 2 weeks of the regular season till now, and this is not a knock, he's a guy. He's not the guy. And that's okay. That's okay. He's not and that's not Julius's fault either. He's a guy.
It's very hard to be a Batman in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's okay to be a Robin.
And he's all right. Credit him for what he did all year. But I have no problem with re-signing Julius. We can talk about the money stuff in the next month or in 2 months.
Yeah, that's for later.
Bring him back on a 4 or 5 year deal, because the Knicks do need stability. But he's not some superstar. But I don't think he ever was, and that's okay. That's not a knock. If I say you're not a superstar, that's not a knock. He could be a perennial all-star the next 6-7 years. Well, not if he plays like he did games 1, 2, and 3. I hope he comes out tomorrow and drops 40. Like he needs to. Maybe not 40, but obviously we'll talk about Julius Randle's offseason situation later on down over the summer. But it's definitely concerning. And I don't think it's like some of his misses are horrible. And again, playing in full arenas now, not playing in empty gyms.
Yep. So 2019, Randle has that type of rough season. I'm not getting that same vibe from now. I feel like I feel more confident in seeing him fail almost, because I think that this is a position that he's just not ready to be in. It's really hard to be a number one option on a playoff team when the floor shrinks, when every second matters, when your rotation's changing up because you just figured out your starting point guard was putting you in a hole. It's rough. So, Jack,
I do
want to
think last night, if Elfrid started, we're down 30 in the first quarter. So, but the one thing I would change, and obviously Tibbs knows more basketball than all of us combined, is I still like Derek with that second unit. I didn't love Alec Burks being the point guard. He didn't shoot the ball well last night. What I would do is, and I don't love Frank at all. I don't love him. But I'm starting Frank at that point guard because Elfrid was only playing, 12 to 15 minutes a game?
Yes, sir.
So my starting lineup tomorrow I'd go back to Noel at center. Noel was great yesterday. He kept us in the game with those free throws. Only missed like 2 or what? He was like only missed 2 free throws out of the 12 he took. So what I'm doing tomorrow is I'm putting Noel back in the starting lineup. I'm starting Frank at the 1, even though Frank isn't exactly, Isaiah Thomas. But you start Frank, and then you keep that second unit exactly the same. And then you give Frank the Elfrid minutes, which is only, no more than 15. That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
So is game 4 going to be more about making adjustments or just playing better?
Playing better. I mean, it's the playoffs, so you'll make some adjustments, and I'm sure Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks coaching staff and players will. It's about playing better. RJ Barrett had negative 5 points, last night. Julius Randle was terrible. Gotta play better. Adjustments short. Adjustments is an easy thing to say. You're trying to be smart. Play better. Play better and you win.
I wanted to give you an opportunity, whether it was the podcast, whether it's your Instagram, your Twitter, to plug, promote anything you've been working on, anything you've got going on that you wanted to promote on the airwaves. So
yeah, for sure. You can follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram, Anthony MSG. I'm always up to something. Probably not too many events this year till next year, but I'm always up to new things, the Knicks, shows, content, interviews, events. So just check me out and you never know what's next.
It's always around. If you're at MSG, you might see him. If you're at a Knicks game, you will see him.
By the way, I'm so glad I didn't go.
Oh man, that was listen, game 4, Knicks got to come back and get a win.
I think the Knicks win game 4. I
agree.
Here's my prediction for the series. Win game 4, win game 5, lose game 6, and game 7, no prediction yet.
At home at MSG, predictionless. I love it.
I think, but yeah, I think the Knicks win tomorrow, but I think they'll win game 5, and then we lose game 6 in Atlanta, and then back at the Garden. And when we're playing with house money.
Pick 'em game 7 at the Garden.
Yep, that's what I think.
And thank you so much for the time. Thank you for your energy around the team and for everything. It was an honor to have you join us. It was an honor to get your insights. So thank you very much, Ant.
It was an honor to have you ask me. And shout out to the legend, Bobby C. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. We'll be back, Jack Roche and Chris Persianen, after this break, one-on-one, longest running Collins show in New York sports, WFUV. We'll see you soon.